Good evening and welcome to another edition of Green White Checker. We just wrapped up I shouldn't say just wrapped up, it was quite a while ago, but the Bass Pro Shops night race at Bristol Motor Speedway. It's Bristol, baby! Those three simple words uttered by Dale Earnhardt Jr. have gone on to be not only a great marketing ploy, but also a very truthful summary of Bristol Motor Speedway and the type of racing you see there. Bristol, of course, a track known for creating iconic moments, so many of them to the point where they have a huge ring of honor going around the top of the grandstands detailing most of them, whether it be Dale Earnhardt rattling the cage of Terry Labonte back in 1995, or whether that be 2012 when Tony Stewart delivered a perfect strike of his helmet onto the hood of Matt Kenseth after they got into a scuffle. Bristol's just known for all kind of bull ring short track moments and just fun short track racing moments in general. And that makes it the perfect place for these drivers to rumble for a spot to advance into the round of 12 in the playoffs. But just an interesting night today. We had the 18th race this season that's been affected by rain in the Cup Series this season. 20th if you actually count the All-Star Heat races back at North Wilkesboro back in May. But it just seems like, there's the old adage that if NASCAR comes to town, you can pretty much bet you're not going to be in a drought anymore. Well, that's still ringing true, I guess. But coming into tonight, the Bubble Watch, Bubba Wallace, Martin Truex Jr., the regular season champion, Michael McDowell, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., all facing elimination coming into tonight, and all of them basically would need to fight like heck in order to try to point their way into the round of 12 without a win. And fight like heck they did all night long. It was a tough battle for all of them, but Christopher Bell picked up his third straight pole award coming into this one. Unfortunately for Christopher Bell, the storyline continues to ring true for him, that though he's had speed and he's run well, it hasn't really translated into any kind of wins or anything for him. He's won the pole for the first three playoff races, and he's had bad luck on pit road in every single one of them. Ended up costing him again today, even though he swapped pit crews. And they gave him Ty Gibbs' pit crew, which has been the most consistent, the best crew all season long before the playoffs, and they just continue to have weird incidents. Today, Christopher Bell actually swept the first two stages of the race. Looked like he might have had the speed to possibly dominate and win the entire thing. And then, after the second stage, he loses 3 spots on pit road and never did recover. So another one that he let slip away because of incidents on pit road. And one has to wonder if that means it might affect his chances of continuing on to the playoffs as it continues to go on down the road. But like I said, he dominated the first 2 stages, led early on. First caution came out at lap 70. Austin Cindric rammed into A.J. Allmendinger. Allmendinger had just been lapped, kind of got run up the track by Christopher Bell and Denny Hamlin both. Then kind of got squeezed a little bit. Cindric had nowhere to go, just rammed into his left rear quarter panel and ended up bringing out the first caution of the race. And this is where you saw the first examples of playoff chaos happen today, because Denny Hamlin got caught speeding on pit road, had to go to the rear. Kyle Larson, who, by the way, famously came out on stage today in his driver introductions and said, "I'm starting from the DFL today." Well, DFL is not safe for work, so I'm not going to say what that stands for. But he started 36th, a.k.a. dead last, so we'll let you draw an inference from that. But he made a nice little save in qualifying, but it lost him a lot of time, even though he had the fastest car in practice. Kyle Larson definitely not only been one of the most consistent cars all season long, but also has been one of the fastest ones through all the playoff races so far, too. And definitely, even if he wasn't having all the speed and everything right now, with as talented and as good as Kyle Larson is, he's always going to be a threat to be there in the end of the championship for. So, yeah, obviously he's going to be a driver to watch going forward, and he was a factor in today's race as well. But again, he has to go to the rear again, has to work his way back up to the front of the pack again. During that first caution, Corey LaJoie and Bubba Wallace decided to play the strategy gamble and stayed out, and they actually held their own for a little while until rain came and brought out the second caution of the race, right as Christopher Bell was about to reclaim the lead from them. Christopher Bell, at the end, went on to win Stage 1, Then right at the end of stage 1, once again the rain came into a factor, delayed the race, put them under the red flag for about 15 minutes, and that kind of brought about concerns of how the racetrack was going to respond, because they had to go and drive the track. And it got just wet enough where they had to send out the track dryers, and obviously that means they lost a lot of rubber from the upper groove, that just as the track was starting to find some grip up there to the point where it could be a 2-groove racetrack. The concern was that it was going to go down to being just a 1-lane track, and people were just going to be playing follow the leader for a little while, especially in a race that's 500 laps and it's already long and grueling enough. You don't want to put too much wear and tear on yourself or your car early on. And luckily that didn't end up becoming the case. The racetrack did rubber back up real quick. Some of the drivers decided to try to start pushing the limits and riding up high early on there after it went back green. They weren't able to make it stick, but over time, eventually that lane did pick up. And honestly, especially coming out on the exit of turn 4, that actually became the preferred quick line, because you saw a lot of good passes, especially between Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, and the guys that were battling for the lead. They were using that high line coming off of turn 4 to their advantage to almost sheer perfection. It was like a slingshot coming into the front straightaway every time. So that ended up kind of becoming the preferred line on the track as the race went on. But going back to what happened after the first stage, Kyle Larson ends up charging his way back up to the front. Ended up leading up to the 50 to go in stage 2 before Christopher Bell got him back. And again, Christopher Bell went on to sweep both stages before his pit crew lost him 3 spots there on pit road. And we'll go to the third caution here. This was actually one of the most costly moments in the race, because it ended up being a playoff eliminator right then and there. We had an incident where Corey LaJoie got loose in the back straightaway going into turn 3, ended up bouncing off the inside retaining wall, came back up the track and into traffic, and he collected Kevin Harvick, Joey Logano, Ryan Newman, Justin Haley, and Ty Dillon all in one big mess there going into the entrance to turn 3. For Joey Logano, that basically eliminated him from the playoffs right then and there, because it busted his left rear suspension. The tire was basically pointed completely to the left. There was nothing they could do to fix it. He was done, and that put him below the cut line, and that eliminated Joey Logano, the defending champion, from the Cup Series playoffs. And Ryan Newman ended up having to go out of the race off the damaged vehicle policy clock from that. Kevin Harvick, though he got back out on track, he ended up going down 2 laps, and it's just real unfortunate that Kevin Harvick has had the type of season that he has had, especially knowing this is going to be his last one. You never want to see a guy that's had such a career as his kind of fizzle out like this in his last season. Sure, he made the playoffs here in his last season, and he's had no luck with it over these first 3 races. He did end up getting eliminated today ultimately. You hate to see that, but I don't think there's a person out there in the world that's not going to be cheering for Kevin Harvick to try to win a race here as we go through these last 7 races of the season. He's a very likable guy. He's a legend, and he's going to be a Hall of Famer, no doubt about it. It's just kind of unfortunate the way that Kevin Harvick's final season's gone, and his final race here at Bristol is, again, he did finish the race, but he was like 5 laps down, and that he was eliminated from playoff contention today as well. Denny Hamlin ends up taking the lead there on lap 358, and basically he never looked back from that point on. NASCAR tried to make it interesting. There was the last caution of the race was a fun flag, as they would call it, an SRX. Basically, you had Martin Truex Jr. got loose on the front straightaway coming off turn 4, and the rear end of his car, the right rear, went up towards the outside wall. He bounced off of it with the right rear of his car. That ended up straightening him out. He didn't end up spinning out because of it, but NASCAR literally, as soon as he came off the wall, immediately threw the yellow, saying that there was debris on the track. And there wasn't any to be seen. Let's just be honest, that was a fun flag. They were trying to make things interesting here because it was getting to a point where the racing was single file. Denny Hamlin was running away. He had like a 4-second lead at one point, running through lap traffic over Kyle Larson, and it seemed like it was going to have an interesting finish up to that point. So you can see where NASCAR was coming from with trying to make it interesting there. Didn't end up working out for them here. Instead, Denny Hamlin goes on to pick up his 51st career Cup Series win. That breaks a tie with Junior Johnson for the most wins for a driver with no championship. Interesting little fun fact there. But, congratulations to Denny Hamlin there on his